Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Excited today to interview my good friend, Shayla Dempsey. Shayla and her husband, Neil, are also in my market, a little bit west of here in the DFW area, members of Investor Fuel, and work together in their business, obviously. And my wife and I do too. So we're going to talk about that today, working with your spouse and how that can be a good thing and not necessarily a bad thing. Professional real estate investors know that it's not really about the real estate. In fact, real estate is just a vehicle to freedom. A group of over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors from across the country meet several times a year at the Investor Fuel Real Estate Mastermind to share ideas on how to strengthen each other's businesses, but also to come together as friends and build more fulfilling lives for all of those around us. On today's show, we're going to continue our conversation of fueling our businesses and fueling our lives. I'm glad you're here. Shayla, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, how's it going? Yeah, we throw in a lot of little jokes there because I think when spouses work together, there are times when you might want to kill each other, but of course we all got in this so that we could, live a better life. And so I know you'd agree with that. That's what we're going to kind of talk about today. But I always, I guess there's a soft spot in my heart for couples that work together because I know there's pros and cons and there's challenges, and some people could probably never do it. And but glad you guys are. So hey, before we get started, why don't you tell us about you and your background?
My background, I was in insurance adjusting for 10 years. Okay. Met some people that knew some people and ended up, I think this guy knew like 2 people total in Texas and decided that we needed to meet each other and go on a blind date. And I was like, Texas is huge. Just because we're from the same state does not mean that we need to meet each other. But yeah, so we went on a blind date and there you go. Ever since. So he was actually in insurance adjusting for a while as well. And then once we got married, it was kind of jump on board the real estate train, whether you were ready or not.
Because Neil was at the time he was pretty much a buy and hold guy back then, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He started buy and hold in 2007.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So he had been in it for a while. We got married in 2013. So
okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. And so and you guys, you have a brokerage, you do fix and flip, you do some wholesaling, starting to do some owner finance, you have rentals, you pretty much do all the tools that are in your tool belt, right?
Yeah, I would say of all of those, we don't do wholesaling very much. I have a couple guys that, if it doesn't fit in my box, if it's outside my tiny little that I like to stay in, I don't even send Neil on the inspection. I call up one of my wholesale guys. I think I've got like 2, and they go out. So I wouldn't call it true wholesaling.
Yeah.
But it's our version of it.
Sure. Yeah, that's okay. So let's talk a little bit about, some of the, working with your spouse issues. And I know some of it is, I think, just having clear roles. And I know you guys have different strengths, and I think when most people start, I don't know how you guys were, but we were kind of stepping all over each other, like trying to do the same things. And but ultimately you have to kind of find like what you're good at and divide and conquer, right?
Right. Yeah. So I guess just to step back just a little bit. So when Neil was buying back in 2007, through the turn, all that stuff, it was all on MLS. So he knew how to write contracts, he knew how to buy properties, all that good stuff. But when it comes to actual direct to seller marketing, there was nothing. That didn't even exist to him back then.
Right.
So we started direct to seller marketing, just he and I, not knowing anything. So it was just kind of like a sink or swim. Let's figure out what we're doing here. And we had no set goals, no plans, no strategies. I did a lot of Facebook. Like just, what do? YouTube? I don't know. So we both just dove in, and it was so clear so quickly what I was good at and what I was really bad at. And his was the exact opposite. So none of it was actually planned, thankfully. And thankfully, I'm really bad at taxes and banking and papers, in general, keeping up with that. And he's really great at it. So basically, it took a little bit and we figured out, hey, his job is to make my phone ring. And then, he doesn't answer my phone and I don't touch his marketing. So
Yeah,
we had to
well, that's
figure that
good.
out.
I think my wife and I have that too. She's very detail oriented. She's really our CFO and handles a lot of the operations parts of the business of businesses. And I was always more on the sales side, whether acquisitions and dispositions, and more on the marketing side even as well. So yeah, but I think it's great to start to have those clearly defined roles because
Mhm, mhm.
even if you're a couple or you have a small team or whatever, like you still have to organize yourself like you're a Fortune 500 company. I mean, you still need a marketing department and sales and the operations and the finance side for sure. Like those things
Mhm.
still have to exist, and ultimately one person needs to be held accountable for those things, right?
Absolutely. And that's what we found whenever we have made mistakes on, different process, different areas going through an entire flip, something of the sort. If you go back and find out, it's because, somebody didn't stay in their lane.
Yeah.
And that's where the mistake happened. And what happened just recently on a property in front of people, my husband was going, "Woman, stay in your lane." I was going, I don't know if that's very nice in front of people, but it was pretty funny. Everybody got a good chuckle out of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, you just got to learn to stay in what you're good at and don't step on toes, and makes for a happy life as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. So how do you guys come together? Because there's always some gray area on, like you said, is everybody has their lane, but then there's like, somebody that might want to pick out. For example, I used to manage all my rehabs, and Lindsay didn't go to any of them. And every once in a while, she'd like swing by one, and she's like, maybe give her advice on what to do. And I was like, no, we're already this thing's already left the.
Yep.
We're already moving forward, and this is what we're doing. And so how do you overcome those issues of when somebody has an opinion on something and they're kind of maybe out of their lane or it's in a gray area? How do you overcome those issues and still maintain a strong relationship?
Well, it's funny you use that exact example because last week I stopped by property and I list our flips, but I don't do the rehab on our flips. So that's kind of, it gets into the little bit of
Yeah.
gray there. If I'm like, hey, if I'm the one going to be in charge of this with the buyer, like, so I try to step on his toes every once in a while in that category specifically. And it never works out well. I stopped by there and he wasn't doing something that I thought should be done. And, the contractors had already started the work, and really it just muddies the water, and you have to step back and say, okay, from a business perspective, you know this is how it's going to go. He technically is the president, I am technically vice president, however you want to look at that. Like, he is going to have the final say when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
Mama can get mad, but it's not going to work out well.
Yeah.
And as you've gone through, however many of these properties now, you just learn.
Yeah. And after you've been in this for a while, it's like, paint colors and some other things are ultimately not going to make a difference ultimately. And if you don't like do something crazy, right? But
Right.
at the end of the day, a lot of those things like unconverting a garage or leaving it as is or whatever, you could ask 10 prospective buyers what they would do, and 5 would say one thing and 5 would say the other. So it doesn't, a lot of those things don't ultimately matter much. We make a bigger deal out of it because we just want to insert ourselves in things sometimes,
Yep.
but from a
Yep.
business perspective, it's like, it doesn't really matter.
Yep. Now, one thing we both do is we both comp properties.
Yeah.
And we always, always, always come up with a different price. And that's one that he lets me have the final say on. So
Yeah.
that's kind of nice. And that's, you're allowed to come in and share that lane, and then who's gonna have the final say on it as well. So
Yeah.
a lot of respect.
Yeah. So how do you guys balance your work and life? And I'll just tell you that we don't. Like
Okay.
it's kind of all one and the same. But I know a lot of people try and they never get there. Some people actually do a really good job at it, but I'd say most probably don't. But how
Yeah.
about you guys?
Yeah, no, probably not. I would go with, we joined Investor Fuel to be around like-minded people. And really, it's kind of turned into our vacations. You get an actual, kids go to the grandparents for 4 full days, which, is amazing. And we get to go be adults by ourselves. And talk about what we love to do. So both of us are super passionate about what we do. I look forward to Mondays. He looks forward to Mondays. Like that's rare. So, I would say that, oh, we do such a great job leaving the office. And when you walk into the house, it's home time. And no, that's not it at all. My 3-year-old's going to know way more about real estate than any 3-year-old should. So he already drives by and goes, Mommy, we should buy that house. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. We tried for a long time to be like, well, hey, we're going to have date night tonight. We're not going to talk about work at all. And like, maybe a minute in, we're deep in some conversation about work. We're like, we said we're going to do this, but like, well, what else do you want to talk about? I don't know. That's just kind of what we do for a living. And part of it is because we love what we do,
right.
Generally. But it's just like my personal life and my work life are one and the same now.
Absolutely. And, we have all the same goals, all the same passions, all the same, so it's not like you're talking about work. It's like you're talking about life,
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, that's great. So about goals, like talk about that. Cause I think sometimes people that work together have different, they start to, it's different. Your goals have to be aligned. Otherwise, one person's working harder than the other. What I found is whether it's spouses or I've known a bunch of people that were friends and became partners. And then those partnerships have gone south in the business. And it's usually around one person feeling like, well, hey, we're 50-50 partners, but I'm doing 75% of the work. And so I'm working harder than you. And so it basically festers, like somebody feels like they're doing more of the work and the communication's not really there. Now, in marriages, like Lindsay does way more on the home front than I do by far. And she does a lot of work in the business. And so we're a team, we have like multiple things going on, but how do you guys stay on the same page with goals and make sure that somebody doesn't want to grow faster or slower than you do?
Yeah, well, I guess those my mind kind of went 2 different directions there. One would be time of who puts in more time and effort and that kind of thing, which I don't. I know there's been some times where Neil would go fishing in the middle of the week, and I was going, I have a really, really hard day today. I hope you get sunburned. With love. But for the most part, we are both going the same direction. We know where the train's headed. However you get yours done, however I get mine done, we're both going the same way, and we want what's best because we're all on the same team here. As far as goals, Neil is very much a go big. I'm more about time. So Neil's like, hey, let's hit this many properties this year with, and break it down. And he does the whole KPI thing. And I'm like, oh, cool. We paid bills. That's exciting. So we have totally different aspects on that.
Yeah.
But really, whenever you ask him his why behind his goals, it's time. So, we both hate 100 degrees. If it's 100 degrees, I don't want to be here. I want to be in the mountains where it's cool. So, I want a life built to where we can load up the kids and be in the mountains for the month of August. So even though his goals are set more in a, trackable measurement, which is from Investor Fuel. Thank you. You put that on him. So now he tracks KPIs. But the reason behind it is what matters of why. So the goals are both the same because mine is in time. His is just measurable.
Yeah. That's I've always felt that way too. Like it takes a while for your business to get stable when you first start, but once you get there, like sometimes we're like, we work hard, but the truth is, we start our days later than most people. I could just disappear for a week if I wanted to, or we could, and so there's so much flexibility in what we do. And I think, it's a blessing. We can do that together. Cause I know, I have friends that are in real estate and their spouse has like a W-2 job. And so they're like, well, they can't, and it's because they love their job, not necessarily because they need the money, but they probably get 2 or 3 weeks of paid vacation a year. So they can't just like leave,
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of why we got into this, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Priorities.
Speaking of the mountains, by the way, I don't know if you saw, I'll tell you after the show here, but we have a trip planned, Investor Fuel trip planned to Beaver Creek, Colorado in right before July 1st through 3rd. So anyway,
All right. Good to
don't
know.
forget to tell you about that. We
Yeah.
love it out there. So, and then talk about you guys, when you have kids, talk about like how you instill those things in them. Cause when we first started, my son he turned 13 this past summer. And when we first started, he was about to turn 1. So it's been a
Oh,
long time.
wow.
He's never known anything other than this.
Right.
And so, we're definitely not, perfect in this regard, but it's like, how do you instill the things that we learn about, another way to make a living than what I
Yeah.
was taught and what I did before I was in real estate in your kids? And I know you probably have goals like money wise, financially, things you want to do for your family to kind of build a legacy. But I think there's also those things that you can kind of teach your kids about how to live a better life. Right. And so do you guys, do you, what, you don't have to tell me your specific plans, but just talk about how important that is, I guess, for you guys as a couple.
Yeah, actually, we were talking about this not very long ago. It comes up regularly, obviously, but the other day we were talking about Romans 12, 1 and 2, basically says be different. Like if you're going to abbreviate, those two verses, it says be different because God calls us to be different. Stand out in a way that is glorifying to God. So everything we do in life, I feel like is already different. And then you put us in the world of real estate. We don't fit in at all. Nobody fits this, I had a bad day with the kids one day and Neil was like, you know what? Load up. We're going to the zoo. Like we're skipping work today. Like who can do that?
Yeah.
So it's about teaching them to be different, but it just goes in line with everything else to be different.
Yeah.
The fact that I want them to follow this path so bad, we go and walk properties and it's really, really common for me to have a baby in a backpack. I don't let them down because a lot of the houses we buy are really gross.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to get down, but baby in a backpack and off we go. So they're going to be immersed in it and hopefully they'll love it as much as we do. So.
Yeah, that's great. I definitely remember taking my son to, when he was small, lots of properties. I'm like, do not touch anything. Don't touch that. Yep, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's interesting because we just have one son who's 13, and my nephew just moved in with us. He's 18
Oh, wow.
and from Illinois, which is where I am from.
Mhm.
And he just got done with high school early. So I'm like, well, just come down and do like a 4-month internship. And so
There you go.
we're kind of feeling our way through that, how he can get the most out of it. Honestly, it's kind of nice because a little bit of a trial run for potentially my son. And so, we're just trying to teach him some things and get him immersed in some things that he wouldn't have done otherwise,
Right.
So yeah, it's
Well,
interesting.
full transparency, my little guys are 1 and 3. So we're not quite there yet, but Neil already has big plans.
Your internship program doesn't have to start yet.
Yeah. Well, they're learning shapes and colors and houses all at the same time. So
yeah, I do think, when we very much, we don't have to you and I won't get political here because I know where you lean. And we're pretty much on the same page. We won't get political here, but I will say that when I grew up in a very blue collar family, and the thought was go to school, try to get good grades, try to go to college, get a good job. It was all just the normal kind of process of America. That's kind of this factory of teaching you basically to work for somebody else. And so I think it's important for our kids, when you are an entrepreneur, to be able to teach your kids that there's another way. Like that's not the route you have to take. If that's what you want to do, that's great. But there's another way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was super, super blessed in the fact that both my parents own their own businesses growing up.
Yeah.
But on the same page, I had no idea. So everybody were, seniors in high school and everybody was deciding that they want to go be a nurse or go do this. And I was like, I don't know, but going to the same place 9 to 5 every day for the rest of my life sounds miserable. Like, I don't know why y'all are volunteering to do this. I don't know what I want to do, but it's not that. But I remember being in junior high and my dad would come sign me out of school and we'd go play golf because it was pretty weather. Like they would ask, well, why are you taking her out of school? Because it's pretty weather.
Right.
School. So, I have a feeling that's the direction we're going to go with our kids.
Yeah. Awesome. That's good stuff. So, hey, you guys have been members of Investor Fuel for a little while now. Would you mind just kind of sharing your experience, just some thoughts on how maybe Investor Fuel has impacted you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off with the selfish part of it, of why I like it, being it's like a little vacation for us. You get a hotel room and, get to order breakfast in the mornings, my favorite part. So, but in addition to that, I have never met a group of people that you can just walk in and talk to. We are so different in so many ways from across all parts of the nation, and yet we meet and go to talking like we're best friends as soon as you walk in the room. And anything you have an issue with, you talk through it, and somebody's going to be able to say, "Hey, been there, done that. This is where the direction I went. Maybe recommend it, maybe don't, but at least it's a been there and done that." And I've never met people that want to help so much. And it's really neat because so many times we just felt like we were out on an island for years by ourselves in this weird world of real estate. And now we don't. So there's my little 2 cents about the selfish side of it, I guess, is all.
Yeah, like you said, you just gave this example of your dad pulling you out of school because the weather was nice, right? It's like, that's not normal for people that have W-2 jobs, and it's hard to talk about what we do, or we're going to pack up the car and leave for a week or a month just ad hoc with your W-2 friends or your neighbors because they're like, wait, what? Because they don't get to do that. And then unfortunately, you start to feel sometimes like you're bragging, and you're like, I'm not trying to brag. This is just the life that I chose, right? And so then you just end up saying nothing, and then you're like, well, what are we going to talk about to these folks? Because I feel like I'm bragging if I say, about travel or about, hey, we just did an awesome deal and we're celebrating tonight or whatever it might be, right?
Nail on the head, exactly.
Yeah. So it's cool to be around like-minded others. So
absolutely.
Well, hey, if folks you guys operate in kind of DFW, a few different, I guess, markets, some smaller markets in Texas too. If folks wanted to connect with you in any way, like what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're mostly DFW. We do some Wichita Falls, and we are venturing off into Abilene. So if anybody wants to reach out, it's Shayla Dempsey. Cell is 817-240-6163. We're 419 Properties. So that's FOUR19properties.com. So that's where we are.
Awesome. Well, appreciate your time today. Always good to see you guys. Looking forward to seeing you again here soon. As we're recording this right now, it's like a cold snap in Texas, which is kind of crazy. Like I saw in a couple of days, it's supposed to get down to 3 degrees. It's like
the single number. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's not normal here. Yeah.
No.
So anyway, once it warms up a little bit, hopefully we'll see you guys around town soon.
Absolutely.
Well, appreciate you guys a bunch. And everybody, hope you got some value from today's show. I think working with your spouse can be a great thing. You just have to get over the hump, some of the early phases of who does what, and make sure you have similar goals and you don't kill each other in the process of trying to build a better life together, because that's not what anybody wants. But hope you got some value. If you haven't really checked out Investor Fuel yet, we really have an amazing community of givers, a lot of couples in the group. Not everybody's a couple, but definitely lots of spouses that work together, and really just an amazing community of over 100 real estate investing companies from across the country. We'd love to talk to you. So just go to investorfuel.com. You can learn a little bit more and schedule a call with us to see if it's a fit for you. Appreciate you a bunch. We'll see you on the next show.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Are you an active real estate investor? If so, and you want to latch on to the power of surrounding yourself with over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors, all committed to building stronger businesses and living richer, fuller lives, you should jump on a call with us to learn more about Investor Fuel. Simply visit investorfuel.com to get started.